Sonny, this is yours. Illinois and Iowa State. The 3 seed Illinois versus the number 2 seed Iowa State. Iowa State, of course, was hot going into the tournament, having that blowout win against Houston. They've done well in the tournament so far, but I wouldn't say they're one of the hotter teams. They're not one of the sexiest teams to pick just because defense isn't a brand of basketball that everybody enjoys watching. However, Illinois is definitely one of the sexiest teams right now because of Terrence Shannon Jr.'s ability to score, Coleman Hawkins' versatility to do what he does, and Marcus Domask's triple-double that he had in the very first game of the tournament. So a lot of hype for Illinois right now, but I've also heard a lot of people say that Iowa State's not going to give up what other teams have been giving up to Illinois. So, Sonny, what are your thoughts going into this game?
I think this is the best game of the Sweet 16 slate. I think it genuinely could come down to the final possession. We've all heard the cliche, the number one offense against the number one defense. We know what's going to happen with that, but I also think it's two of the better coaches in the country whose teams have really kind of bought into what their coach is saying. It's going to be tough. I think right now Illinois is kind of, as you kind of worded it, like a sexy pick, a trendy pick, just because of our style of play. But I'm kind of worried that despite a lot of the media picking Illinois to win, a lot of the fanfare on Twitter and whatnot, you see, Illinois as the prediction. Like Vegas still has Iowa State as a favorite, and Vegas knows what they're doing for the most part. So I actually, we'll get to it a little later. I'm not nearly as confident as I was, of course, naturally, after the first two games that we had. Not that I'm going to respond to, naysayers who say, Illinois got an easy first two games. That's fine. It's just turning the luck around. We have one of the more unfortunate luck when it comes to bracket seeding, at least in our most recent past. But I think it's going to be a great game. Iowa State is built to kind of minimize what Marcus Domask does with his booty ball. So it's going to be interesting for us to see if Terrence Shannon can not only be doing what Terrence Shannon does, but also on top of that, whether a Coleman Hawkins or a Quincy Guerrier, these guys are going to be able to make the open three-pointers that they're going to get when the double teams, the triple teams comes towards Domask.
Yeah, I agree. I think that in my mind, Domask is the key in this game. I've heard some people say it's TSJ, some people say it's Coleman Hawkins and his versatility. To me, this is the game where the point guard stuff comes back to Illinois. Brad Underwood said at the beginning of the season that he's not concerned about not having a point guard on the team. And honestly, I wouldn't be too concerned about it either when you have Marcus Domask getting triple doubles. But at the end of the day, Marcus Domask is going to be tested here with his point guard play. Is he going to be able to handle the ball well enough to keep it away from Iowa State? And is he going to be able to run sets for Illinois and get the scores in their position to score as they need to do? So, Marcus Domask, I think he's up to it. He's been playing at this amazing level that nobody else in the country, very few players in the country are able to play at. And then Terrence Shannon Jr. as well, playing at such a high level. So in my mind, Illinois, it kind of depends on how they do. Iowa State is going to play their game. They're going to play tough-nosed defense. But if Illinois can play defense back in the entire game, not just for half of the game like we saw in part of the Big Ten tournament, but if they play it the entire game and they are able to keep the ball away from Iowa State and handle it well, then I could see this being a game where Illinois wins. But I could also see it be a little difficult for Illinois to come in and win this one as well. But Frank, your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, kind of to echo what Sonny said there, it's the unstoppable force against the immovable object, right? What's going to falter? And if I can just pluck myself out of this Purdue fan base for a second, pretend that I'm not a Purdue fan, this too would be the most exciting game of the Sweet 16, in my opinion, just for that reason. But I think some of the things that exist in the Illini's favor, it's been said in the comments already. Iowa State's defense is, largely centered around generating turnovers. So they turn their opponents over more than 1 out of 4 possessions. So just over 25% of the time. But Illinois is actually, one of the best teams in the country at not turning the ball over. And when you look at the 5 worst performances with respect to turning your opponent over for Iowa State, 4 of those 5 were losses for them. So I think that, that's part of the recipe is just to take care of the ball. because they are good at turning those turnovers into quick offense. And that's something Illinois is really good at doing as well. But I think that, for the Illini to not let the score get away from them, taking care of the ball is going to be step number one. And JR, you hit on it as well, that Domask is key. If he can start to play his booty ball and draw those double teams and draw those post traps and then kick it out, and Illinois can stay disciplined on the perimeter, I think that's going to be key. And so really there are two main questions here. It's, can Illinois' defense step up if the shots aren't falling, and vice versa for Ohio State? Can they generate offense if their defense isn't carrying them? This is a game that, I can really see going either way, but Sonny, I agree with you completely in that it's probably going to come down to the final possession. And I mean, both teams are hot. Both teams won their conference championships. Both teams had pretty convincing outings so far in the NCAA tournament. I mean, Iowa State blew out Houston, to win their conference championship. I'm really excited for this game. Pulling for an Illini win, the Big Ten definitely needs it. Yeah, I'm so pumped. I do think it's going to be a very close game and a very fun game to watch. Wish it wasn't so late.
Right. We're all going to be falling asleep, and Terrence Shannon Jr is going to wake us up when he gets in transitions. All right, Sonny, you tell me if these numbers you think should be concerning for Iowa State. 6'4" point guard, 6'1" shooting guard, 6'8" small forward, 6'7" power forward, 6'10" center. Going up against the smallest player on Illinois' team is the 6'6" guard, Ty Rogers. I guess 6'6" Marcus Domask as well. But, I mean, that's something that I'm looking at that nobody seems to be mentioning when it's coming to this game. And maybe I'm just stupid and I'm the only person thinking about it, but the length of Illinois and their athleticism as well. Don't get me wrong. Iowa State's a very athletic team too. They have good athletic players on defense, and you need to be athletic on defense, but I do wonder how much of this Illinois team is going to just overpower Iowa State with their length and with their athleticism, getting into transition, because at the end of the day, I don't think Iowa State is going to be able to stop Illinois in transition every single time. They're obviously a good transition defense in addition to a good half-court defense. However, I just look at this Illinois team and say this is a complete mismatch in terms of length and size. What are your thoughts on that, Sonny?
I mean, I think for the most part, you are correct. I think Iowa State doesn't get as much love as that team should. At least over the last 3 weeks, they're one of the best teams in the country, not just offensively or defensively. They've just been a really good basketball team. But Illinois is kind of built to beat that Iowa State defense in the sense that, where you kind of alluded to it, we don't have a natural point guard, but that means we don't have a 6'1", 6'2" tiny guy dribbling around the court. What we do have is 5 guys, 6'6" and higher, passing the ball around. All 5 guys on the floor in 2 of our lineups can shoot the 3 and can drive to the hoop. And that kind of counteracts what a trapping and double teaming, triple teaming defense can kind of do. So I think you're right. Again, we do have a size advantage on most teams in the country. And I think that should the Illini come out victorious Thursday night, we're going to talk about that being kind of one of the storylines of it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the only teams you don't have a side advantage against is Zach Edey at Purdue, but I don't think anybody has a size advantage against that.
And definitely win too.
Yeah, exactly. So, Frank, I do want to talk to you about one player. You're always the man that brings the stats here, and I feel like this guy has some kind of stat a brewing, and so I don't mean to put you on the spot with him, but I do want to ask you about him because I think he has been one of, if not my favorite players to watch in the tournament so far, and I just don't think he's getting enough credit nationally. I think he's getting credit from Big Ten fans and he's getting credit from Illinois fans, but I don't think he's getting enough credit nationally. Dane Dainja. Is it time to talk about the Danger Zone yet? Because we talked about the Boo Zone, but the Boo Zone is gone. Is it time to talk about the Danger Zone yet? Because this guy has been key for Illinois in their games, and he's been playing better defense as well, helping this team to be able to do what they're doing. And Frank, I'm curious on your thoughts about Dane in this game.
Yeah, I don't know who Iowa State will have really to match up with Dainja. I think he's still coming off the bench. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think him coming off the bench, some players are just great at feasting on second units, right? I think you can't really tell. I'm wearing a Mason Gillis jersey. I think that Mason Gillis is a great example of that, and someone that could start, but they just do so well against that second unit. If I'm looking at the numbers here, right, he was perfect he hasn't missed a shot in the tournament, which is crazy. And I think that him playing. It's hard for me to say his best basketball, but really good basketball right now is just going to help the Illini that much more. And I think that, I really, like you said, I really don't know who's going to kind of combat that. And Sonny, I want to go back to a point that you made a minute ago. One thing that has always been fascinating to me about Illinois this season is that they have a pretty low assist percentage. They're 292nd in assist percentage this season. Yet they're now the number one offense. I think that could potentially be something that's advantageous for them, because there's not necessarily one guy you have to look to shut down from a distribution standpoint. If you think about, most teams, they have one kind of distribution hub, and this that usually exists as a prominent point guard, but you have five guys who are just passing the ball around kind of at will. And that just may be a different style of offense that, Iowa State maybe just hasn't seen before. And I mean, Illinois does play kind of a unique style of offense in that you have five guys who can kind of beat you off the dribble and take you one-on-one, score kind of individually in different ways. So I'm the more I talk about this game, the more I think about it, the more excited I get. But yeah, I think, the emergence of Dane Danger lately is going to just add that extra punch they need. And also, Gibbs Lawhorn as well has been playing really well in the tournament. Be excited to see what he can add. This entire Illini team is just clicking on all cylinders, and they're definitely going to give this Iowa State team a run for their money.
Yes, they are. And this is going to be Iowa State's greatest defensive test of the season, and they're going to have to rely on it. So, Sonny, prediction, do you have a winner, and do you have a score prediction for this game?
I mean, I can see this game going either way. I genuinely believe that. Ultimately, on my preview this morning, I had Iowa State something like 77, Illinois 72. I just think there's a better chance that I think our best chance of winning is just getting out early. Domask hitting his shots, us hitting our 3-pointers and getting some room to kind of fall back a little bit should we need to. But if Iowa keeps it close the entire game, their defense is just really, really tough. All it takes is a couple misses on our end to make a mistake. So again, maybe I'm just trying to jinx myself, but I have Iowa State winning Thursday night.
Wow. Frank, who do you have winning?
Yeah, I'm just going to fall back on I ran 10,000 simulations again this morning. And it was truly 50-50. I mean, it was like 49.8 to like 50.2 in favor of Iowa State. Again, that's why you play the game though. So Sonny, I'm going to take Illinois by 3. I'm going to take Illinois 72, Iowa State 69. I think it's a slower paced game. Iowa State's kind of a slower paced team. Illinois is a fast paced team. Those things will kind of cancel each other out. So we'll kind of have a middle of the road score. That's what I'm going to predict. I want to see the Big Ten excel in the tournament. So that's what I'm going to hope for here.
I see the Illini fans in this chat are commenting the same way that they did on my show this morning. If you take a look at those comments, there's a lot of people not very happy with me, but I try to be as objective as possible when it comes to, talking, whether it's, Purdue as a team or, the Illini. Sometimes I'm not as high as the fan base gets, but I also don't get as low as the fan base gets during the season.
Sonny, let me ask you a question before I give my prediction. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What is the name of this show?
The name of the show is the Big Ten Huddle.
Yes. So we're going to pick the Big Ten to win this one.
Hey, that'd be good for our bracket.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, you were saying, you weren't going to pick them. And I was like, well, we picked them to go to the national championship against Purdue with Brant. So, no, I'm going to pick Illinois in this one. And solely because I feel like Illinois is going to reach 80 points in this game. And even though Illinois' defense has been struggling at times, essentially in the first half, for the last, 3 or 4 5 games, however many it's been, back to Ohio State. Even though they have been struggling in the first half with their defense, I think Brad Underwood gets these guys together and he gets them to actually play defense throughout the entire game. I can see a situation where Illinois goes on a scoring drought for maybe 5-6 minutes at the most, but I don't see Iowa State going on a 12-0 run in that time. Iowa State is just not one of those teams where they're going to explode. Ohio State last night, I don't mean to make this about Ohio State, but Ohio State last night exploded for like a 17-0 run in like 4 minutes. Iowa State, they dream of situations like that. It's never going to happen. Even against a team like Illinois, who has struggled with their defense, it's never going to happen. So in my mind, even though, yes, Iowa State could bring Illinois into a 5-6 minute run where they don't score, Iowa State maybe scores 8 points in that run. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to put them in such a hole that is detrimental. I think Illinois will be in it through the entire game, and I think Illinois' athleticism and their size will win out in this one. I think Illinois wins this one 81-72.
I hope you two are right.
I also hope I'm right.